This watch, the Baltic MR01, is an exceptional timepiece in terms of value for money, features and specs, and of course quality. And it's without a doubt one of the best watches for about $500 that I have ever gotten my hands on. I am really impressed with it. It's a modern watch with classic styling. It has a beautifully decorated micro-rotor movement, and it's in a conservatively sized 36mm case, sporting a blue dial featuring applied high-polished markers and a guilloche seconds subdial. Oh, and did I mention that it's under 10mm thick? Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure to wear on the wrist. What's up, everybody? I'm Guy, and you're watching Just Bluefish Watch Reviews, and yes, today we're checking out a phenomenal watch. It is, as I mentioned, the Baltic MR01 Blue. It was provided for me for the video from Baltic, so a big thanks to them for sending this watch over. Now, there are a few watches at or around plus or minus $500 that are, in my opinion, Hall of Fame watches. The Hamilton Khaki Field comes to mind as one of those watches, at least for me. It's a simple everyday sports watch that looks really great, and it knocks it out of the park in terms of value, features, and specs. And while that watch is more in the sports watch genre, I always said you could kind of dress it up on a leather strap. Well, no more worrying about having to dress up a sports watch. Here we have a Hall of Fame caliber everyday dress watch that is, by all accounts, even nicer than my beloved Hamilton, if I'm being honest. The Baltic MR01 comes in a 316L stainless steel case, and it rides on an Italian calf leather strap. The watch case has a mix of brushed case flanks and high-polished accents, and it has dimensions that include 36mm in case diameter, 44mm lug-to-lug, 20mm between the lugs, and a thickness of just 9.9mm, and that's including the domed crystal. Now, the crystal is actually a high-domed Hesselite crystal, which reinforces those classic, almost vintage-inspired sensibilities of this watch. And while, yes, Hesselite can scratch, polishing out those scratches with a bit of polywatch paste is super easy, and no crystal material can replicate the look that Hesselite gives you. So for me, it's totally worth it. Now, the watch is only 30 meters of water resistance, and of course there is no screw-down crown, but it is a dress watch, so why would I need that? I have no issues here. The watch face is comprised of a set of high-polished leaf-style hands and an offset guilloche seconds subdial. The blue dial surface has a somewhat grainy finish, adding a touch of texture, and the high-polished Arabic numerals are in somewhat of a whimsical typeface that reminds me personally of vintage clocks that I remember seeing hung on the walls of people's houses when I was a kid 40-some years ago. And I have to say that I really like the style. And for as nice as the watch face is, turning the watch over rivals the dial for the title of the main event on this watch. The Hangzhou Caliber 5000A Micro-Rotor movement is an automatic movement with a 42-hour power reserve. And while the specs of this movement are okay, it's the handsome decoration that really sets it apart from anything else in the price range. The gold-toned rotor is engraved and textured and features the Baltic watch branding, and along with most of the screws, it's fastened with a large blued screw. It has Côte de Genève and perlage engraving throughout the movement, and the watch escapement is highly exposed, displaying the balance and the gearing in great detail. It looks so good that you might be tempted to wear this watch on your wrist backwards so that you can look down and appreciate that movement anytime you want to, just like you would the watch face. And speaking of that watch face, this comes in 3 dial variations: a salmon dial, a silver dial, and this blue dial. Of the 3, I think that the blue is the winner, but if you're not crazy about that, there are other options available to you. Now, this strap is the Italian calf leather version, like I mentioned earlier, but they also have a number of other strap and bracelet options to choose from when you're picking your watch. Those choices range from blue and green straps all the way up to beads of rice and flat link bracelets. Now, I thought for a dress watch that the best option for me was this leather strap, but again, you have several choices available to you. Now, after having had this watch here for the past couple of weeks, having had time to wear it and test it and put it through its paces, I have to say that there really isn't much negative that I can point out here. I do have to say that generally I'm not much of a fan of leaf-style hands, but on this watch, I think that they work really well, and I actually like the design choice in this case. So I can't even call out that subjective negative on this watch. I am completely unfamiliar with this movement. Obviously, it's Chinese made, and that's really all I know about it. So as far as reliability and longevity go, I really don't know what to expect over time. I did a little bit of reading and got some anecdotal evidence from people on the internet that suggest that it's quite reliable and robust, but me personally, it's not like I've had as many of these movements as I have had Seiko movements in the past. I'm sure it's a good movement, and I'm sure that Baltic chose it wisely. So while the movement isn't a negative, and it certainly does look great due to my lack of experience with it, I've got at least a mild cause of concern. That said, we do have the 24-month warranty from Baltic watches, and by all accounts, their customer service is excellent, so I'm not really too concerned. Alright guys, there you have it, the Baltic MR01 Blue, an outstanding daily dress watch that I have been nothing but impressed with. It's definitely going on my list of all-time great watches at or around plus or minus $500 in price, and it's one that I would highly recommend if you're looking to add a classically inspired and conservatively sized dress watch to your collection. Now, with all of that said, let me close this out by saying thank you for tuning in and watching. Do me a favor and hit the subscribe and the like buttons if you enjoyed this video, and of course turn on notifications so you don't miss any future videos and reviews. And until the next one, let me say thanks again and bye now.